We've got some fresh.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
We spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
If you'd like to learn more about how to turn your content into profit, go to contentisprofit.com. Woo! All right.
Let's go. Let's do this. What are we going to talk about today?
Hold on. Let me tell you that was fire. I think that's the best intro we've done so far.
Yeah, that was pretty smooth. Pretty smooth.
Pretty smooth.
Let us know if it was smooth in the comments below. Just say hashtag smooth. Yeah. And we'll give you a shout out for sure.
For those listening to the podcast, we decided to do this intro live just so we can get comfortable with it. If we need to change it up a little bit, we can. So that's why you hear every week in and out.
I think
doing it live.
I think it also helped us get in tune with our characters for the podcast, right? I think it's gonna be interesting. And by characters in the podcast is something that we're gonna be talking about today. So
just a second.
That's the hook right there for you to keep listening.
Fonzie, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about to podcast or not to podcast, and why you should probably do it, right? Yeah. Like what should you do, whether it is podcast or I don't know, something else. That's what we're gonna figure out in this episode right now.
All right, before we start and we dive into these awesome stories and the topic that we have today, make sure to subscribe, hit that subscribe button. Any podcast platform, we are out there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher.
Google, yeah. So
Google Podcast.
Yeah, just, share it, comment. If you want to support us, subscribe, leave us a review. Yeah. We would really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, again, this is episode 9, so open for feedback 100%. So leave your comments.
Definitely. Right. And if you are someone that loves creating content, loves marketing, loves to solve problems, and you have a business, let us know, and we might even bring you onto the podcast. We want to talk to you. We want to know what are your thoughts around content.
All right, 100%. All right, so Fonzie, why should you podcast or not to podcast? What should you do? What should you do?
So I think at first for people that's starting, that's a very, very tough question, right? Because there are so many things out there, and we were in that exact same situation when we started, right? We heard it over and over again. You need to publish. You need to publish. How did we find all this information? Because other people publish. So I think in the back of our minds, we always knew we needed to. But then we were like, okay, well, do I do it on Facebook or do I do it on Instagram?
Yeah.
And do it in all these platforms is different. It obviously takes a lot of effort to do it just like in one platform individually. So let alone like all platforms.
All the platforms, yeah.
So the way what happened, right? Like I'm gonna fast forward here on the story a little bit, but we ended up picking podcast as our main platform, right? And the question is like why we decided to get podcast. And
do you remember when we decided that this was gonna be our platform?
I do remember, actually. It was about a year and a half ago, a little less than
as in we're recording this episode, it was a year and a half ago, and this is episode 10, and the last
9. This is episode 9.
Episode 9, sorry. Yeah. The first 5 episodes we recorded in January, so about 2 months ago. 2 or 3 months ago. Yeah. And today, like in the last 2 weeks, we've recorded 4 episodes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've always been, again, if you've listened to the first few episodes, you know that our journey has been all over the place. We started, as a social media marketing agency, and then we turned into the video guys, and so on and so on. But we always knew in the back of our heads, again, that we needed to publish, create this content. The problem is we didn't know who we were talking to, who was our dream customer. And nailing that down helped us decide, hey, you know what? I think podcast is the right platform for us because the people that are going to buy from us, they are listening to podcasts, they are producing podcasts, and they're in that podcast community, right?
That's right.
So tell me a little bit more on the story on how we started the podcast.
I actually went Facebook Live last night well, it's crazy. Like with everything that's going on in the world, I was actually going to tune in. Like, I'm going to go live at 11 at night. That might be not like internet might be resting right now, but I think Facebook broke. So I couldn't broadcast. That's the first time, man. That's the first time in like 90 days. Anyway, so I had to go on Instagram and share this story, but I was so excited because as in that, like the day that we're recording this episode, yesterday, our podcast went live and on Apple Store, man. Come on. Yes, we got to celebrate.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I was so excited. I wanted to celebrate this win with like the people that follow our journey, and I couldn't go live. And the story I wanted to tell, which I told today on a Facebook Live before this episode, because I gotta go live, was like the day that we decided to do this. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I was telling everybody that you have a better memory than I do. 100%. So
for certain things,
I tend to start like telling these stories.
My girlfriend would say no.
Yeah, she'll definitely say no. Anyways, I'm starting to share like this story, and so I tell people like, okay, well, my brother might correct me. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, I will.
It was about a year and a half ago, and we are driving back from this crazy event that we did.
Okay.
The World Toughest Mudder. Is that correct? I attached this story to that event. I don't know why.
That is incorrect.
Dang it. Okay.
About tell your story. I want to hear it.
That is okay. Okay.
Even if it's incorrect, I want to hear the story.
Dang it. I don't know why I attach it to that one story. But anyway, so we were driving back to our home, right? It was a long drive. No? Anyways, for the sake of the story, let's just say
just keep going with the story
that we're driving.
and then I'll give you my version.
And then we said we need to start a podcast. We had our revelations. And the reason I attach it to driving maybe is because every time we go on road trips, we compete in like all these crazy races, and we've done Tough Mudders and Spartan races.
We get epiphanies.
Yeah, so I think that's our thinking moment. So I think that's why I attach it to that. But anyways, so we were driving and we just decided that we were going to start a podcast because that was the way to go. And as we're driving, this is like a 4-hour drive. At least this is the story I remember. Holy, like
I mean, the 4-hour drive part, you are correct.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
I'm looking at you like that. He forgot the whole story.
No, okay.
I keep telling the story.
Okay.
The 4-hour part is right. It was a 4-hour drive.
Okay, yes, I got it. So, and then we start making this whole list of the people that we're going to invite the people we're going to talk to. And I don't even know who's on that list anymore because in year and a half, obviously the objectives have changed on what the podcast turned out to be.
Yep.
Is that correct?
I mean, yes, that part is correct.
Yes, okay.
The list.
My goodness.
I'm going to assume that list disappeared. Honestly, I don't even know where that list is. Well, we had a pretty big list of people that we wanted to talk to.
Yeah, so what was the main idea back then?
Well, before the main idea, I'm going to go back to the real story.
The real story.
So the real story is that we were driving 4 hours, like he said, but we were driving our parents back from Jacksonville to Miami because they were going to hop on a plane and go back to Venezuela. That is where we're from.
Okay.
So
that makes
on
more
our
sense.
way there, we were just thinking, and then all of a sudden we're like, you know what? Collaboration is key. And we, at the moment, we were working on the fitness industry.
Yes.
And one of the fitness coaches that was working at the studio, she was like a local influencer. And we're like, you know what? Like, we have these contacts. We can probably bring them over and have them part of the podcast. And then they can share it and we can tap into their audiences.
Okay.
But we were also like, what if we do the podcast in local breweries and we call the podcast Brews and Bros?
Yes. Okay.
And
yeah.
that's how it originated. And actually, the first few episodes that we recorded, the unpublished episodes, they were called Brews and Bros, and that's why we got that little sound in there.
Sound in there. Yeah.
But that's the story, right? We were driving to Miami.
Okay.
It was in the car. We created the list of people that we wanted to talk to at that moment, but we were even in a different industry than what we are right now.
Yeah.
We were talking to a whole different crowd that we're talking right now.
And that's why the list is nowhere to be found right now because
we don't actually need that list.
Exactly. The episode evolved to a point where we're going to be interviewing some different people, some different peeps. Now, So that's cool. That reminds. Okay, well, thank you for updating me on my story bank.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, bad memory. Anyways.
All right, so
Okay, so actually this morning I was listening to an awesome audiobook called Traffic Secrets. And they were talking there about the power of a platform. And I think this is the starting point on what platform you should choose. And they were talking, I can't remember exactly the name of the person, but they were in The Apprentice, the show with the great or the crazy, wherever you are, Donald Trump. So The Apprentice. And the whole point of that event that episode was to recollect a lot of money for charity, right? So this participant started to call a ton of people. Like he's on his phone like the whole day and he would not get any answers, right? And then at the end of the episode, when they asked him why he was not able to get like all this money, and this is Celebrity Apprentice, so it's a lot of famous people, right? So it should be easy to raise some money.
Yeah.
He's like, guys, when I had a platform, everybody will return my phone call. Right now, I don't have a platform, so nobody will return that phone call. And that was a crazy moment.
The phone call or the fun call?
Gong moment for that?
That was not a
wow.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a dad joke moment. And
wow, and he's not even a dad.
I'm not even the dad in here. All right, sorry, keep on. All right, so
I think the goal moment was my part of the story. Anyway, so that explains the power of that platform, right? If you have a place where you create content consistently and you provide that space for other people to come on and share their message, that puts you in a position of power
and expertise,
and building a rapport with your audience and with the audience of the people that you bring on, right? So a lot of people are very comfortable with their voices, so they can start podcasting. A lot of people are very comfortable in video, so they can do video, right? Some people are very comfortable writing, so they can write blogs. So I guess you should choose the platform that's better suits you, right? Why did we pick a podcast?
So I'm gonna agree and disagree with that statement, just because I think you should pick the platform where the people that's gonna buy from you are, right? Because we're talking here from a business point of view, right? If you love to write and the people that are gonna buy from you, if you like to write and the people that's gonna buy from you love to read, then sure, like those two align, and therefore you can write your blog posts and whatnot. But if you love to write, but your people are consuming all their information on podcasts or YouTube, then writing will probably not get you where you want to be in the most effective way, right?
So I agree with you. Now, this is a great segue to our second point, right? Which is fear. Like I think not publishing or like choosing that platform might be a degree of fear, right? So if you're starting, right? Hey, I completely agree with you. Like as a business, you should be where your clientele, your dream client is 100%.
Yeah.
Big time. And we can come back to that. But what if for somebody that's just starting up, right? What's the platform that they should pick?
Well, again, that's going to depend on who they're going to be selling, right? Because, again, for example, and I'm going to use our story. When we started, we started selling social media marketing agency services to restaurants.
Yeah.
And honestly, we weren't wise enough to pick the right restaurants. But for us, our platform that we picked was Facebook. And at the moment, honestly, it was like the main thing that we knew of.
Yeah.
And I honestly, to this day, I don't even know if it was the right platform because we didn't do any research, to see where these people were getting their information. So for all that we know, the few sales that we got were from literally like cold calling and knocking on doors.
Yeah.
So all of our efforts that we did in social media might have been for nothing, right? Now, fast forward to what we're doing right now, and we did our research. We know who we're talking to, and we decided to do the 45 Live Challenge.
Yeah.
And we got business from that. Why? Because we knew our audience, part of our audience is hanging out in Facebook, and they like to consume long form video content, right? Because that's the people that we're targeting. So now we leveled up a little bit, and we know we're specifically talking to people that produce podcasts, long form content like podcasts or long YouTube interview videos. And so we decided, let's move on to the podcast platform. We need to create a presence there so we can be the platform, right? Invite other people that come over. We can talk to them, share their message, and it's just gonna help us position us in the right place, in the right spot in our customer's mind.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like how bad you want it, right? Because going with that fear moment, right? Let's say, I mean, you play soccer, right? I play soccer. We're both athletes, or we're athletes. Right now, I can roll down the street, but
we were
athletes. But even if you were like, there's always, like, and if you're listening, right? Like, think about if you like sports or you love to play sports. You're gonna play no matter what. Even if you're freaking out, you have all those butterflies in your stomach and your belly, you're gonna just step on that field and play and have fun. So with this is no different.
Yeah,
right. You want an objective. You want to go play. You want to win. With this, right, with content creation and content specifically to create profit, you have to go where your dream clients are.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's funny that you mentioned the example of being athletes, because it wasn't until about a year ago when I heard Steve Larsen said, like, this is my sport, that business, direct response marketing, this is my sport. That kind of like clicked in my head. I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. We practice soccer pretty much all our entire life so we could be good at it and don't have the fear when we had to perform. And it's the same with business, right? Like, we need to practice, we need to fail, we need to get better at it.
Yeah.
So then we can do it on a more consistent basis without the fear. And sometimes the fear doesn't go away. But what you do is you train yourself to move forward regardless of the fear.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting because, like, when we work with people actually creating content, we actually work with these awesome coaches that they will perform in front of 30 people, like for 3 hours straight, different groups. So they'll see 100 people and they'll literally perform. They'll have a mic on their face. Yeah. And then we will create content with them and they will freeze in front of a camera. Right?
Yeah.
And we couldn't understand why. Is it the fear to the unknown? If you're listening, right? Let
us know what's stopping you.
What's stopping you? Send us a DM at BIZBROS in Instagram.
Yeah, if you're live on Facebook right now, see we have a few people there. You just drop it in the comments below. Yeah. What's your fear? What's stopping you from producing that type of content that you need, right? Where is your audience? Because again, you might like to write, but your audience might be in the podcast platform or vice versa.
Yeah, and I remember I actually had like this one when I was working in that environment. I had this one member that she showed up, right? And she's like, Luis, you have such a great energy. Like, why don't you share that with the world? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I share it with, people every time they come into the studio, or at least I think I'm doing that, right? It's like, no, why don't you, like, on social media? And that was around the time that we were, like, creating this whole plan for those studios and stuff like that. You should be on camera, right? Like, and we had wonderful coaches, and I'm like, no, I don't think so, and then we started talking, and she did, like, this whole session on me that day. But at the end of the day, she's like, hey, like, I understood that I had this false belief story in my head that if I would put myself out there on video, people from back home will see it, and then they will be either angry at me because I was having a blast doing what I love to do, and that was a fake story that I was putting in my head. And she asked me this question: what if you are able to help someone because you put yourself out there? So I ask you that same question right now. If you're struggling to start publishing a podcast on video, think about that client that you can help today that
they might not get their message because you are not willing to take that step forward, take that risk of publishing and maybe making a mistake,
Exactly.
Because it's totally fine to make mistakes. If you see our last episode, full of mistakes.
Full of mistakes.
And I agree 100%. I think it's a matter of perspective at some point, right? I think it gets to a point, and it took us around 3 years to get to the point where we had the perspective on like, hey, like I don't really care if you judge me on the other side of the screen. I don't really care if I make a mistake, because I know I'm going to get better. And we truly know that we can help people, you're right, or dream clients. We know we can help them with the message that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think, it's definitely a matter of fact, a matter of perspective. And I remember, again, 3 years ago, I was sitting in my room. It was like, actually, it was like 4 years ago when we were recently starting, and I was in my room and I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm working from the house, and I would take pictures of the computer, and I'll be like, on Instagram, I'll put like hashtag laptop lifestyle. But was I being productive at all? Like nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I remember I was looking at this. I don't know why I remember this so well, but I was looking at Louis' house, something from his content. And I mean, if you follow him, you know that he grew his platform being the platform provider, let's say, right? Like he would invite people to his podcast. He still does.
Yeah.
And he shared their message with everybody, and he grew his podcast massively, right? So I remember seeing that, and I saw a video of him explaining that, and I was like, that's what I need to do. I need to start publishing. I need to start talking on camera and stuff. And I made all this plan. I made it like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to talk about. And then at the time of doing it, I didn't do anything, right? And I remember the exact thought that went through my head, and it was like, what are my friends gonna say, right? What if they see this video and like nobody likes it and whatnot? And obviously now at this point, thinking back, I'm like, I wish I would have started then, because imagine the progress that I would have done in 4 years. It would have been huge, right? And I want to tie that to fear of public speaking, right? It is proven that fear of public speaking is one of the biggest fears in the world. I think it's like second after the fear of death, something like that. And
I mean, you can see that like if you go to any class, like public speaking class, everybody's terrified to standing up and having a 2-3 minute speech.
Yeah, and I think doing video or sharing your voice through a podcast resembles a lot public speaking.
Yeah.
Therefore, a lot of people are like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Even if your mind is telling you to do it, the other, like your old brain, the one that runs on emotions and everything, and that wants you to be safe, is telling you, don't do it. Like, stop it. Yeah. But you got to push through. Again, you got to train your body to push through that fear.
If for those listeners right now that are struggling to get their message out, right? They know they got to publish. They know they got to stay consistent, like we talked in the last episode. They know they have a message that is so worth it for their audience, but they're still not publishing. What do you think the solution is?
I mean, personally, I think it's to take it one step at a time, right? And part of what we talked on last episode, that it was creating those frameworks that are going to facilitate it for you, right?
Your calendar.
But, my calendar again. I'll sure I stopped it. Whatever, it's going to stay there.
No, the video.
I'll be right back, people.
All right, guys. So while sorry. Clearly, we cannot stay away from the bloopers, guys. I am so sorry. I am here dying laughing. But anyways, so if you tuned in the last 3 episodes,
I'm back.
The reason we're cracking up right now is because the setup that we decided to do is we're plugging in our phone to record and multitask and have an awesome content strategy that we're going to share with you guys later. But these notifications keep coming up, and FONZI is dropping the ball.
Yeah, so
anyways, pick up where you left off.
Parentheses. I have scheduled every day from like 9 to 10. It's like a drag and drop in my calendar where I put education, right? So I'm like, okay, I block an hour a day, see what I'm going to learn today. And I mean, it keeps popping up because we keep recording the podcast at the same time every
I
day.
Love it. This nothing can be there. Okay, talking about fear, right? Like imagine like this would have happened to us like a year ago,
and we would have stopped everything.
Stopped the whole episode.
Honestly, I think we wouldn't be recording live. We would be recording, and then if something like that happens, we were like, no, let's start over again. And then realizing that we had to start over again after recording for 30 minutes, we'll be like, forget it. We'll
just let it go.
And drop it.
And I think because now we see the payoff of publishing consistently, being yourself, sharing your journey, right? We've seen it not only on ourselves, but with a lot of people that publish consistently, right? And if you go back and you see those first episodes, it's crazy. Like
I would still consider that these are some of the first episodes.
Yeah, but still,
back to the first Facebook Live, the 45 Live.
Exactly,
like
the first
ones.
But I'm talking not just about us, because ours, you should go back and watch them and you'll laugh like crazy. But like other people, like, same Russell Branson, the same Steve Larson, like these guys, right? Even Lewis Howes, right? Like, I wonder what the first episode was, and that's fine. They just went over that fear, and I think we gave us permission to do this like this, because that payoff and the connections and the conversations that we've been having with people are so much valuable that allow us to push through that fear.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I'm gonna take that what you said and circle back to what we were talking about. Kind of like where should they start? And I think is by training that fear, right? Training yourself to take that step and conquering that fear. And sometimes we're so used to think on like problems that we're gonna go ahead, right? Like, for example, if we would have started a podcast, we're like, okay, but like, what is gonna be the art that we're gonna use for the cover, and how are we gonna publish it, and like, how are we gonna create the blog post? You're thinking 5 steps ahead, and that's how we used to think too. We used to think 5, 6, even like 10 steps ahead, and that's just gonna like freeze you right where you are. Because you're not gonna know what to do. Yeah. Because that's a moment that's a problem of the future, right? You only have one immediate problem, and your immediate problem is, how do I record it, right? Or when am I gonna record this? Is it today in the afternoon or tomorrow morning? And do that, and then move on to the next problem. So step by step.
Exactly. So I think that's like the perfect bridge for the last thing that we that we see, right? It's like people get so hung up on, okay, perfect, I got it, or I gotta do it, and the same thing. Like, they immediately in their head they start building all these stories and these like future problems that are not even real, right? And it's like, where do I publish? How do I publish? Like, what do I need to do? The techie stuff. Like, who's gonna do it? And we have so many conversations with people that are so excited and motivated to do, especially in like this podcast conference that we went, Podfest, right? Like what is it, like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago,
There's so many people that are motivated with all the tools possible to do it, and it's like paralysis by analysis, because there's so many options. And I think our story of just doing it, just go Facebook Live, what's a minimal viable content. I mean, you look at people like, again, Russell, right? Like, he's the perfect example. He started his podcast. If you go listen to Marketing Secrets, is recorded on a phone. And this is a guy that has $1 billion company.
Yeah.
And he records it on a phone. So what does that tells you, right? Do not try to stay away from those future problems that FONZI was just describing. Just focus on one step at a time.
Yeah.
And then...
And I think we naturally tend to go there just because it's the fear of the unknown. And we're like, oh, what could happen, if we do this, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But again, like he said, just try to come back to the present and say, okay, my immediate problem is that I'm not recording. So how am I going to record this, right? Is it going to be my phone? Okay, cool. Grab my phone. And then what is your next problem after you record? And so on, right?
I love it.
Definitely that. And like we were not you. Honestly, it was me. I was the one that I'm like,
not you.
Not you, me. I was like, I need the best of the best if I want to start doing something, right? So, for example, when
Mr. Perfectionist,
like when we started working with restaurants and we were like, we'll produce content. I was like, the guy we were learning from, he was like, oh yeah, you can do it with your phone, right? You can do it with your phone, there'll be no problem and stuff. So I started doing it with my phone, and I was like, heck no. I was like this looks horrible. I wanted to look like this Instagram pictures that I see that look amazing. So I'm going to learn how to do it that way. So we bought the DJI Ronin for the phone, the stabilizer, and I filmed a few videos. And then I was like, you know what?
Still no.
No, still no. We need a camera.
Still not good enough.
We got a camera, didn't know how to use it. And then the fast forward a few years forward, and
he became the video guy.
No, like when we record the podcast, we're like, okay, let's start a podcast.
Yeah.
And we immediately bought like the full equipment, right? And
these are the episodes that we keep telling you that we're probably gonna package and probably gift to you as a Christmas present or something. They're hilarious.
I think to a point, for obviously not everybody has the ability of investing on a podcast setup, right?
Yeah.
But again, and we tell this to everybody, the quality of the message, the quality of the message is way more important than the quality of the production, right? So I think to a point, the fact that we had this help us to start, because we were like, dude, we spend all this money on this thing, we need to use it. Yeah,
we tend to work a little bit better under pressure.
Under pressure, but again, you don't need any of this to start. The guy 4 years ago was right. Your phone is all you need, honestly.
The phone is all you need. So I definitely encourage you guys, like if you are listening right now or you're tuning in on Facebook Live with us, tell us, communicate with us. Go follow, go message at BIZBROS Go. We're happy to help with any resources, any questions you might have, especially if you're like going through this. Like we understand that we went through that process. We're going through that process right now as we do this, right? Yeah. This is not easy for us to do, because that we are naturals. I don't think we are. Like I think we like enter like this persona that allow us to do this, but every time we're about to do this, we freak out and we tell, hey, we're gonna go live at 7:30, and then it's 8 p.m. and we haven't gone live yet, and it might be because we might be a little bit freaking out that we're doing this. So understand that we're going through this, so we're happy to help if you have any questions. I think I think one quote that kind of stuck with me big time was, I think it was Steve that said that. The obstacle is the way. That was Ryan Holiday's quote, right?
That's his book.
That's his book. The obstacle is the way. I haven't read the book. But yeah, I mean, and the logo that he showed was this mountain, right? And there's a trail that goes all the way up in the mountain. And it is truly the way, because as you push through those challenges, you're going to learn so much. And then when you look back, you're not going to believe where you are. So the only way to do that is to start today.
Yeah.
So
commit and do it.
Commit and do it. All right, guys.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I
guess
think
this is it.
I think we're running out of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Send us a review. Send us some comments. Share the love, because we are putting our hearts into this, and we would love to know what you think.
That's right.
Guys, thank you so much.
And we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.
Bye.